Preparing for your real estate exam? Birdsey has you covered with a series of videos covering everything you need for exam day. This is National Part 1, focusing on real estate principles and property ownership. And be sure to pay attention to what's in the bottom corner of the screen. It will be key to your prep. We'll explain more about that in just a minute. Now let's get started.
Let's dive right into real estate principles. We'll start with basic concepts of real estate. Which of the following is considered an immovable characteristic of real estate? Is it A, land, B, fixtures, C, chattel, or D, leases? The answer is A, land. Real estate is defined by its immovable nature, primarily concerning land and anything permanently attached to it. What is the primary advantage of real estate as an investment? Is it A, liquidity, B, diversification, C, appreciation, or D, appreciation? The answer is C, appreciation. Real estate is often coveted as an investment due to its potential for financial appreciation over time, offering returns as property values increase.
Have you noticed the code in the bottom corner? Next time you're stumped, take that code to birdsey.ai for immediate help and a free study session with Birdsey, your personal AI study partner. Plus, you'll get access to hundreds of additional questions, helping you move closer to passing your exam with confidence. The next time you're feeling unsure or stuck, give it a try.
Which factor primarily determines local real estate market conditions? Is it A, national interest rates, B, local supply and demand, C, zoning laws, or D, government subsidies? The answer is B, local supply and demand. The interplay between local supply and demand defines the pace at which properties sell and their price levels, shaping the local real estate market. In real estate, what does the term bundle of rights refer to? Is it A, taxation rights, B, ownership rights, C, leasing agreements, or D, easement rights? The answer is B, ownership rights. Bundle of rights is a term used to describe the set of legal rights associated with property ownership, allowing the owner various freedoms regarding the property. What does real property include that distinguishes it from personal property? Is it A, movable items, B, improved land, C, intangible asset, or D, legal rights? The answer is B, improved land. Real property includes the land itself, plus any buildings, plants, and resources permanently attached, thus distinguishing it from personal or movable property. Which of the following is considered real property? Is it A, a new refrigerator, B, a planted tree, C, a portable shed, or D, a detachable ceiling fan? The answer is B, a planted tree. Real property includes land and anything permanently attached to it, such as buildings, trees, and minerals. What is the primary characteristic that distinguishes real estate from personal property? Is it A, mobility, B, value appreciation, C, income generation, or D, ownership transfer procedures? The answer is A, mobility. The immobility of real estate means it is fixed in location, differentiating it fundamentally from personal property. Why is real estate considered an illiquid asset? Is it A, because it depreciates over time, B, because of its high transaction costs, C, because it cannot be easily converted to cash, or D, because it's heavily regulated? The answer is C, because it cannot be easily converted to cash. Real estate's illiquidity arises from the difficulty and time involved in selling it, contrasting with more liquid assets like stocks or bonds. How does location influence real estate value? Is it A, location determines travel times, B, Location affects accessibility and desirability. C. Location influences ownership rights. Or D. Location impacts the cost of materials. The answer is B. Location affects accessibility and desirability. Real estate value is heavily influenced by location, which affects desirability due to proximity to amenities, schools, and transportation.
If you're finding this helpful, please take a minute to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more practice exams, useful tips, and complimentary study sessions with Birdsey.
Property ownership and types of property. Which of the following is not considered real property? Is it A. Land, B. Buildings, C. Vehicles, or D. Fixtures? The answer is C. Real property includes land and items permanently attached to it, while vehicles are considered personal property as they are movable and not permanently attached to land. What is the term for an individual's full ownership rights in a parcel of land? Is it A. Fee simple absolute, B. Life estate, C. Leasehold estate, or D. Easement? The answer is A. Fee simple absolute. Fee simple absolute represents total ownership of the property, allowing full control and transferability. What type of property ownership is shared by two or more individuals, allowing the share to be passed to heirs upon death? Is it A. Joint tenancy, B. Tenancy in common, C. Community property, or D. Divisible estate? The answer is B. Tenancy in common. Tenancy in common allows co-owners to hold individual shares that can be inherited by their heirs. Which of the following property types is typically considered personal property? Is it A. Commercial buildings, B. Movable tables, C. Agricultural acreage, or D. Residential homes? The answer is B. Movable tables. Personal property includes items that are not fixed or attached to land, such as movable items. What term refers to a right to cross another person's land for a specific use? Is it A. Easement, B. Encroachment, C. Lien, or D. Covenant? The answer is A. Easement. An easement is a non-possessory right, allowing use or enjoyment of another's parcel of land. Which type of ownership involves owning a unit along with a share of the common elements in a property? Is it A. Leasehold, B. Condominium, C. Cooperative, or D. Single-family home? The answer is B. Condominium. Condominium ownership allows for individual unit ownership and shared interest in common areas. Common elements might include lobbies, pools, and hallways. What is personal property commonly referred to as? Is it A. Freehold property, B. Real property, C. Chattel, or D. Fixtures? The answer is C. Chattel. Chattel is the legal term for personal property, which includes movable items that are not permanently affixed to real estate. Which of the following is not considered real estate? Is it A. Land, B. Buildings, C. Stock certificates, or D. Resources? The answer is C. Stock certificates. Real estate refers to the land, its improvements, and natural resources. Financial instruments like stock certificates are personal property. Tenancy by the entirety is a form of ownership applicable to whom? Is it A. Business partners, B. C. Sibling, or D. Friends? The answer is B. Tenancy by the entirety allows spouses to own property together, providing rights of survivorship and requiring consent for transactions involving the property. What type of ownership allows an individual to pass an undivided interest in the property to heirs? Is it A. Joint tenancy, B. Tenancy in common, C. Life estate, or D. Fee simple? The answer is B. Tenancy in common. Tenancy in common allows co-owners to pass their share of property to their heirs, contrasting with joint tenancy, which has survivorship rights.
Notice the code in the corner. When you're stumped by a question, enter it at birdsey.ai for immediate help. Enjoy complimentary study sessions and access to hundreds of additional questions to help you pass your exam with confidence.
Real versus personal property. Which of the following is classified as real property? Is it A, a fence surrounding a house, B, a mobile home, C, a dining room table, or D, seasonal blinds? The answer is A, a fence surrounding a house. Real property includes land and anything permanently attached to it, such as buildings and fences. Personal property includes movable items not attached to the land. What distinguishes real property from personal property primarily? Is it A, age, B, value, C, size, or D, age mobility? The answer is D, age mobility. The primary distinction between real and personal property is immobility versus mobility. Real property is fixed in location, unlike personal property, which can be moved. Which item of the following would typically be considered personal property? Is it A, built-in kitchen cabinets, B, a sofa, C, a permanent retaining wall, or D, an in-ground pool? The answer is B, a sofa. Movable items such as a sofa are considered personal property. Items permanently affixed to the property, like built-in cabinets and retaining walls, are real property. How is a chandelier attached to a property usually classified? Is it A, personal property, B, real property, C, temporary property, or D, public property? The answer is B, real property. Once installed, a chandelier is considered a fixture, thus classified as real property due to its permanent attachment to the structure. Real property includes all of the following except: is it A, land improvements, B, mineral rights, C, a portable shed, or D, fixtures? The answer is C, a portable shed. Real property generally encompasses land and permanent attachments, including fixtures and improvements. A portable shed remains personal property due to its movability. Which of the following would be considered personal property? Is it A, grass in the yard, B, a refrigerator that is not built in, C, a built-in bookshelf, or D, the house on a piece of land? The answer is B, a refrigerator that is not built in. Personal property refers to movable items not fixed to real estate. Items like appliances not attached to the property, such as a refrigerator, are considered personal property. What determines whether an item is a fixture and thus real property? Is it A, the cost of the item, B, the previous owner's preference, C, the color of the item, or D, the intent of the owner to make it permanent? The answer is D, the intent of the owner to make it permanent. The intent of permanence or attachment to the property by the owner often defines whether an item is considered a fixture, making it real property.
Stuck on a question? Just think of the Birdsey link in the description as your friendly neighborhood superhero, swooping in to save the day with answers. Feel free to explore it now and return to continue. Simply hit pause, and we'll be waiting when you get back.
Legal descriptions. Which method of legal description uses natural landmarks to define property boundaries? Is it A, meets and bounds, B, lot and block, C, rectangular survey system, or D, monuments? The answer is A, meets and bounds. Meets and bounds describe land using natural landmarks, distances, and angles, making them suitable for irregular parcels. This method is one of the oldest forms of property description. What term describes the location of a property in relation to its surroundings on a legal description? Is it A, bearing, B, address, C, boundary, or D, point of beginning? The answer is D, point of beginning. The point of beginning is used in meets and bounds descriptions to establish a starting and end point, ensuring the property's location is accurately described. What is the purpose of a legal description in real estate? Is it A, to provide historical information about the property, B, to ensure precise identification of a specific parcel of real estate, C, to suggest potential uses for the property, or D, to estimate the market value of the property? The answer is B, to ensure precise identification of a specific parcel of real estate. Legal descriptions ensure precise identification of real estate parcels, serving as official records for conveyancing and title insurance purposes. Which part of a plat map is typically used for legal descriptions in the lot and block system? Is it A, block number, B, lot number, C, grid coordinates, or D, parcel identifier? The answer is B, lot number. In the lot and block system, properties are identified by referencing specific lot and block numbers, both of which are found on a plat map. What is a rectangular survey system also known as? Is it A, lot and block, B, meets and bounds, C, public land survey system, or D, boundary lines? The answer is C, public land survey system. The rectangular survey system, also known as the public land survey system, divides land into townships and ranges, widely used for properties in the western U.S. What is a legal description that delineates land using its physical boundaries and measurements called? Is it A, lot and block, B, meets and bounds, C, rectangular survey, or D, datum point? The answer is B, meets and bounds. Meets and bounds is a system that describes a parcel of land by describing its boundaries using terminal points, angles, and distances. It typically starts at a clear point and defines perimeters. Which system of legal description is primarily used in urban and suburban areas for land identification? Is it A, rectangular survey, B, lot and block, C, meets and bounds, or D, government survey? The answer is B, lot and block. Lot and block system simplifies land description in populated areas by using references to a recorded subdivision map or plat, a method streamlined for organized development. Which component is used in the rectangular survey system to divide public lands for sale and settling? Is it A, B, origin points, C, monuments, or D, plaps? The answer is A, baseline. The rectangular survey system depends on baselines and principal meridians to create a grid system for dividing land, especially in states west of the Appalachians. Why are monuments significant in meets and bounds legal descriptions? Is it A, they indicate areas of historical significance, B, they provide explicit data for lot sizes in the rectangular survey system, C, they serve as the starting point for the lot and block method, or D, they serve as physical markers that define the boundaries in a property description? The answer is D, they serve as physical markers that define the boundaries in a property description. Monuments are crucial in meets and bounds descriptions as they physically denote the boundaries and corners of a property, ensuring precision in legal documents.
If you're finding this helpful, please take a minute to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more practice exams, useful tips, and complimentary study sessions with Birdsey.
Rights in real property. Which of the following is an example of surface rights in real property? Is it A, ownership of minerals beneath the land. B. The right to control the growing of crops on the land. C. Rights to airspace above the land. Or D. The right to sell the property. The answer is B. The right to control the growing of crops on the land. Surface rights in real estate pertain to the use and enjoyment of the surface of the land, including activities such as agriculture. Easements are an important aspect of real property rights. What does an easement typically allow? Is it A. Exclusive access to private property, B. Non-possessory interest in the land of another, C. Full ownership control over another's property, or D. The power to sell another's property? The answer is B. Non-possessory interest in the land of another. An easement allows one party to use the land of another for a specific purpose without ownership rights. What is the main distinction between freehold estates and leasehold estates? Is it A. Freehold estates involve temporary ownership, B. Leasehold estates provide permanent ownership rights, C. Leasehold estates are temporary, while freehold estates imply ownership until sale or transfer, or D. Freehold estates involve leasing property from others? The answer is C. Leasehold estates are temporary, while freehold estates imply ownership until sale or transfer. Freehold estates represent indefinite ownership, while leasehold estates entail temporary rights gained through leasing. In real property rights, what is meant by bundle of rights? Is it A. Only the rights to possess land, B. The rights to lease, sell, or use land, C. The rights to mineral extraction, or D. Rights limited to agricultural purposes? The answer is B. The rights to lease, sell, or use land. The bundle of rights refers to the comprehensive rights of ownership, including possession, control, enjoyment, exclusion, and disposition of property. What is an example of a non-freehold estate? Is it A. Fee simple absolute, B. Life estate, C. Tenancy for years, or D. Fee tail? The answer is C. Tenancy for years. Non-freehold estates, also known as leasehold estates, include tenancies for specific periods, such as tenancy for years. What type of real property rights allow landowners to use water from a river running through their land? Is it A. Riparian rights, B. Littoral rights, C. Easement rights, or D. Mineral rights? The answer is A. Riparian rights. Riparian rights are related to the use of water from rivers and streams bordering a property. They allow for reasonable use, subject to state and federal regulations. What is an example of a possessory interest in real property? Is it A. Easement, B. Life estate, C. License, or D. Lien? The answer is B. Life estate. A life estate is a type of possessory interest where an individual has the right to occupy and use the property for their lifetime, after which it is transferred to another party. Which of the following is considered a public land use control? Is it A. Zoning laws, B. Deed restrictions, C. Easements, or D. Encroachments? The answer is A. Zoning laws. Zoning laws are enforced by local governments to regulate land use, providing guidelines on lot size, building size, and type of activities allowed on the property. What is the primary difference between a joint tenancy and a tenancy in common? Is it A. Lease duration, B. Shared property access, C. Divisibility of interest, or D. Right of survivorship? The answer is D. Right of survivorship. The primary distinction between joint tenancy and tenancy in common is the right of survivorship in joint tenancy, where the surviving owners automatically inherit the deceased's share. Which type of tenancy allows a tenant to remain on the property after the lease has expired, without the landlord's consent? Is it A. tenancy at will. B, periodic tenancy. C, tenancy at sufferance. Or D, tenancy in common. The answer is C, tenancy at sufferance. Tenancy at sufferance arises when a tenant unlawfully retains possession of property after the lease term expires, often leading to eviction proceedings by the landlord.
Don't forget to comment below with your tips, challenges, and thoughts on exam preparation. Your experiences can make a big difference for others.
Estates and interests in land. What is a freehold estate? Is it A, a type of leasehold arrangement? B, an interest in land for an uncertain duration? C, a short-term rental agreement? Or D, a temporary interest in real estate? The answer is B, an interest in land for an uncertain duration. Freehold estates involve ownership with an uncertain duration, meaning the estate is not set to expire at a preset time and includes fee simple and life estates. What distinguishes a fee simple estate from other estates? Is it A, it is a non-transferable interest? B, it is the most complete form of ownership? C, it is limited to a fixed term? Or D, it involves shared ownership? The answer is B, it is the most complete form of ownership. Fee simple estates provide the most complete form of ownership, with all rights to the property's use, sale, and passing via inheritance. Which of the following is considered a non-freehold estate? Is it A, fee simple absolute? B, life estate? C, leasehold interest? Or D, feudal estate? The answer is C, leasehold interest. Non-freehold estates include leasehold interests, where the tenant has the right to use and occupy the property for a specific period without ownership. What is a main characteristic of a life estate? Is it A, it lasts indefinitely? B, it can be inherited by descendants? C, it lasts for the duration of a person's life? Or D, it grants full ownership rights? The answer is C, it lasts for the duration of a person's life. A life estate is an interest in land that lasts the lifetime of a specified person, after which ownership reverts to the grantor or passes to a remainderman. What is the primary function of a remainderman in estate planning? Is it A, to occupy the property during the life estate? B, to inherit the property once the life estate ends? C, to manage the property throughout the lease? Or D, to pay taxes on the property during the life estate? The answer is B, to inherit the property once the life estate ends. The remainderman is entitled to inherit the full interest in a property once a life estate terminates, establishing a future ownership interest. Which of the following is an example of a freehold estate? Is it A, leasehold estate? B, fee simple absolute? C, tenancy at will? Or D, tenancy at will? The answer is B, fee simple absolute. A freehold estate includes ownership rights of indefinite duration. The fee simple absolute is the most complete form of ownership in real estate. What is the primary difference between a fee simple estate and a life estate? Is it A, duration of ownership? B, right of survivorship? C, tax implications? Or D, inheritance potential? The answer is A, duration of ownership. A fee simple estate offers indefinite duration, whereas a life estate is limited to the life of a specified individual. This fundamental difference defines ownership rights. Which type of interest in land is characterized by exclusive possession for a limited period? Is it A, fee simple defeasible? B, easement? C, leasehold estate? Or D, joint tenancy? The answer is C, leasehold estate. Leasehold estates involve exclusive possession of real estate for a specified term, distinguishing them from other interests in land. Which characteristic defines a fee simple defeasible estate? Is it A, absolute ownership without conditions, B, non-inheritable interest, C, limited ownership duration, or D, ownership subject to a specific event? The answer is D, ownership subject to a specific event. A fee simple defeasible estate is characterized by ownership rights that can be voided upon the occurrence of a specified event, affecting the continuation of these rights. Leasehold estates. Which of the following is considered a leasehold estate? Is it A, fee simple, B, life estate, C, estate for years, or D, easement? The answer is C, estate for years. Leasehold estates, such as estate for years, grant tenants temporary possession without ownership. They differ from freehold estates that provide ownership rights. What primarily distinguishes a leasehold estate from a freehold estate? Is it A, the duration of possession, B, ownership of property, C, payment of taxes, or D, maintenance responsibilities? The answer is A, the duration of possession. Leasehold estates are temporary and have a set duration, while freehold estates imply ownership and potentially indefinite duration. In which lease type does the tenant pay a fixed rent while the landlord covers most property costs? Is it A, net lease, B, gross lease, C, percentage lease, or D, triple net lease? The answer is B, gross lease. Gross leases require tenants to pay set rent amounts, while landlords absorb the majority of expenses like taxes and maintenance. Which of the following lease types involves the tenant sharing a portion of income with the landlord? Is it A, gross lease, B, net lease, C, percentage lease, or D, estate at will? The answer is C, percentage lease. Percentage leases are commonly used in retail, where tenants give a portion of their revenue to landlords on top of the base rent. What is an estate at will? Is it A, a leasehold that continues until tenant or landlord gives notice, B, a fixed-term lease with a specified end date, C, a lifetime lease agreement not inheritable, or D, a lease arrangement that automatically renews annually? The answer is A, a leasehold that continues until tenant or landlord gives notice. Estate at will offers temporary possession without a fixed term, allowing flexible termination by either the landlord or tenant. Which of the following describes a leasehold estate? Is it A, ownership of property transferred by deed, B, temporary right to hold property or land, C, life tenancy until the holder's death, or D, joint ownership with no specific termination date? The answer is B, temporary right to hold property or land. Leasehold estates are often typified by leases where one party leases property temporarily from another, in contrast to freehold estates, which involve property ownership. Which scenario is an example of an estate for years? Is it A, a month-to-month apartment rental, B, a 5-year commercial lease, C, a lease that renews indefinitely each year, or D, a tenancy that ends upon the death of the tenant? The answer is B, a 5-year commercial lease. An estate for years specifies a fixed duration for a lease, such as a 5-year commercial agreement. The lease automatically terminates at the end of this period.
Notice the code in the corner? When you're stumped by a question, enter it at birdsey.ai for immediate help. Enjoy complimentary study sessions and access to hundreds of additional questions to help you pass your exam with confidence.
Easements and restrictive covenants. What is an easement appurtenant? Is it A, a right to use someone else's land attached to the land benefiting from it, B, a temporary right to enter a property, C, an easement that benefits a utility company, Or D, a restriction on land use for aesthetic purposes? The answer is A, a right to use someone else's land attached to the land benefiting from it. An easement appurtenant allows the owner of one parcel to benefit from or use the property of another. It runs with the land, meaning it is attached to the land itself. Which of the following is a feature of a restrictive covenant? Is it A, it grants a right-of-way to cross a neighbor's land? B, it allows property owners to limit how land can be used? C, it provides for temporary land use benefits? Or D, it permits the subdivision of land? The answer is B, it allows property owners to limit how land can be used. Restrictive covenants are binding legal obligations written into the deeds of a property, outlining what a property owner can or cannot do with their land. Who primarily enforces restrictive covenants in a subdivision? Is it A, the municipal government? B, the federal government? C, individual property owners or homeowner associations? Or D, real estate agents? The answer is C, individual property owners or homeowner associations. Restrictive covenants are typically enforced through legal actions by other property owners within a community or homeowner associations as they govern mutual property benefits and restrictions. What happens to an easement when the dominant and servient tenements merge? Is it A, the easement automatically terminates? B, the easement converts to a license? C, the easement continues to exist? Or D, the easement must be explicitly terminated by legal action? The answer is A, the easement automatically terminates. The principle of merger dictates that when the dominant and servient tenement come under the same ownership, any easement is automatically extinguished. Which of the following statements about easements is correct? Is it A, an easement can be revoked at any time by the landowner? B, an easement provides a non-possessory interest in a property? C, restrictive covenants and easements serve the same function? Or D, an easement can only exist between residential properties? The answer is B, an easement provides a non-possessory interest in a property. An easement grants non-possessory rights to use another's property for a specific purpose. They are distinct from restrictive covenants, and once established, they cannot be unilaterally revoked by the property owner. Which of the following is not typically considered a valid way to terminate an easement? Is it A, abandonment by the easement holder? B, merger of the two properties? C, change in zoning laws? Or D, the expiration of the defined period? The answer is C, change in zoning laws. Easements are typically unaffected by changes in zoning laws. They may be terminated by abandonment, merger of dominant and servient estates, or expiration if a term was set. How does a restrictive covenant differ from an easement? Is it A, it grants temporary access to a neighbor's property? B, it imposes limitations on land use rather than granting rights of use? C, it always benefits adjoining property owners? Or D, it can only be terminated by court order? The answer is B, it imposes limitations on land use rather than granting rights of use. Restrictive covenants are about limitations on how the property may be used, differing from easements that grant usage rights. They are typically recorded in deeds. What role does the servient estate play in an easement? Is it A, it is the property that benefits from the easement? B, it is the property subject to the use by another? C, it levies a fee on the easement holder? Or D, it can modify the easement terms unilaterally? The answer is B, it is the property subject to the use by another. The servient estate is the land burdened by the easement, allowing the dominant estate to have certain rights over it. The rights and responsibilities are defined by the easement agreement. Liens and encumbrances. What is a lien in real estate? Is it A, a legal claim against an asset for a debt, B, an ownership interest in a property, C, an optional insurance for property maintenance, or D, a document transferring title of real estate? The answer is A, a legal claim against an asset for a debt. A lien is a legal right or interest that a lender has in the borrower's property, granted until the debt obligation is satisfied. Which of the following is an example of a voluntary lien? Is it A, B, mechanics lien, C, mortgage lien, or D, judgment lien? The answer is C, mortgage lien. Voluntary liens are ones in which the property owner willingly places the property as collateral, such as in a mortgage. What distinguishes an encumbrance from a lien? Is it A, a lien involves property title, while encumbrance encompasses any property right? B, an encumbrance can only be created by the owner? C, liens do not affect property value? Or D, encumbrances are always temporary? The answer is A, a lien involves property title, while encumbrance encompasses any property right. A lien directly affects the property's title, while encumbrances can include any legal restriction on the property, like easements or covenants. What type of lien takes priority over all other liens? Is it A, mechanics lien, B, judgment lien, C, mortgage lien, or D, property tax lien? The answer is D, property tax lien. Property tax liens often take priority over other liens due to statutory guidelines ensuring taxes are collected. Which of the following is not considered an encumbrance on a property? Is it A, easement, B, mortgage, C, covenant, or D, certificate of occupancy? The answer is D, certificate of occupancy. Encumbrances are restrictions or claims on property, such as liens and easements. A certificate of occupancy simply certifies the building's compliance with regulations. Which of the following is a voluntary lien? Is it A, tax, B, judgment lien, C, mortgage lien, or D, mechanics lien? The answer is C, mortgage lien. A voluntary lien, such as a mortgage, is created by the homeowner's agreement to use the property as collateral. This contrasts with involuntary liens imposed without the owner's consent. What distinguishes a general lien from a specific lien? Is it A, general liens affect only one property, B, specific liens affect all properties owned by a debtor, C, general liens are applicable to personal and real property, or D, specific liens cannot be voluntary? The answer is C, general liens are applicable to personal and real property. General liens apply to all properties owned by a debtor, affecting both real and personal property. Specific liens, however, are imposed on particular properties only. Which of the following statements is true regarding liens? Is it A, a lien affects a property owner's rights, but not the property itself? B, liens remain with the property, not the owner? C, all liens are recorded in the county land records? Or D, a lien always requires court approval? The answer is B, liens remain with the property, not the owner. Liens generally attach to the property itself, not the owner. When a property is sold, the lien usually stays with the property, necessitating settlement or negotiation. What is the primary purpose of a lien? Is it A, to establish property ownership, B, to ensure repayment of a debt or obligation, C, to transfer property rights permanently, or D, to promote property development? The answer is B, to ensure repayment of a debt or obligation. Liens serve as a financial security tool for creditors, ensuring repayment by allowing them to claim a debtor's asset if obligations aren't met. Which of the following can result in creating an encumbrance on a property? Is it A, setting up a homeowners association? B, imposing an easement for utility access? C, executing a will? Or D, purchasing homeowners insurance? The answer is B, imposing an easement for utility access. Encumbrances, like easements, restrict or encumber property rights, granting parties other than the owner rights to specific uses of the property. Forms of ownership. Which of the following is a characteristic of a joint tenancy? Is it A, tenants can transfer their interest independently? B, tenants have equal shares with rights of survivorship? C, ownership can be passed through a will? Or D, tenants in common can evict other tenants? The answer is B, tenants have equal shares with rights of survivorship. Joint tenancy involves co-owners with equal shares and rights of survivorship, meaning on one owner's death, their share is automatically transferred to the remaining owners. What distinguishes tenants in common from joint tenancy? Is it A, tenants in common must have equal shares? B, tenants in common do not have rights of survivorship? C, tenants in common restrict who can inherit property? Or D, joint tenancy is subject to probate? The answer is B, tenants in common do not have rights of survivorship. Tenants in common each own a share that can differ in size and can be inherited, unlike joint tenancy, which comes with survivorship rights. In a community property state, how is property acquired during marriage typically owned? Is it A, each spouse owns individual property separately? B, property is owned by the spouse who paid for it? C, ownership is based on each spouse's contribution? Or D, property belongs equally to each spouse? The answer is D, property belongs equally to each spouse. Community property means that all property acquired during the marriage is owned equally by both spouses, irrespective of who purchased it. What is a primary feature of tenancy by the entirety? Is it A, it can only be held by spouses? B, interest can be sold independently by either tenant? C, it involves shares that can differ in size? Or D, it does not include rights of survivorship? The answer is A, it can only be held by spouses. Tenancy by the entirety is exclusive to married couples, featuring survivorship rights and a prohibition on unilateral action against the property. Which type of ownership allows for shares to be transferred freely during the owner's lifetime? Is it A, joint tenancy? B, community property? C, tenancy in common? Or D, tenancy by the entirety? The answer is C, tenancy in common. In tenancy in common, each owner has a distinct, transferable ownership interest, which can be sold or passed on without the consent of the other co-owners. What type of ownership involves the right of survivorship among co-owners? Is it A, tenancy in common? B, joint tenancy? C, tenancy by the entirety? Or D, community property? The answer is B, joint tenancy. Joint tenancy involves the right of survivorship, meaning that when one owner dies, their share is transferred directly to the surviving owners without going through probate. Which form of ownership is typically reserved for married couples and integrates right of survivorship? Is it A, tenancy by the entirety? B, tenants in common? C, joint tenancy? Or D, severalty? The answer is A, tenancy by the entirety. Tenancy by the entirety is a form of concurrent ownership that can only be held by married couples, offering survivorship and creditor protection benefits. Which of the following statements is true concerning tenants in common? Is it A, all tenants must own an equal share? B, property can pass to heirs upon the owner's death? C, each tenant must obtain permission from others to sell their interest? Or D, it's only applicable for commercial properties? The answer is B. Property can pass to heirs upon the owner's death. Tenancy in common allows for individual ownership shares that may be unequal and can be freely transferred or inherited without impacting the co-owner's interests. Which form of ownership is characterized by a single owner controlling the entire property? Is it A. Joint tenancy, B. Tenancy in common, C. Severalty, or D. Community property? The answer is C. Severalty. Ownership in severalty means that a single person or legal entity holds full ownership, with complete control over the property without co-owners.
Notice the code in the corner. When you're stumped by a question, enter it at birdsey.ai for immediate help. Enjoy complimentary study sessions and access to hundreds of additional questions to help you pass your exam with confidence.
Zoning, property rights, and land use controls. Which of the following is the main purpose of zoning laws? Is it A. To increase tax revenue for local governments, B. To allocate and separate land uses to prevent conflicts between different types of development, C. To protect the rights of private property owners exclusively, or D. To standardize design principles across city developments? The answer is B. To allocate and separate land uses to prevent conflicts between different types of development. Zoning laws are regulatory tools that designate permitted uses of land based on mapped zones intended to separate incompatible land uses and manage urban growth. Reference: National Association of Realtors. Which of the following best describes an easement? Is it A. A complete transfer of property ownership, B. A legal right to use another's land for a specific purpose, C. An exclusive right to develop property to the maximum extent allowed by law, or D. A temporary building permit? The answer is B. A legal right to use another's land for a specific purpose. An easement allows one party to use another's property for a specific purpose without transferring ownership. Easements are common for utilities and access rights. Reference: Federal Real Estate Guidelines. What does the term non-conforming use refer to in zoning contexts? Is it A. A use that violates established environmental standards, B. A use approved through a special decree by the City Council, C. A temporary variance granted by the Zoning Board, or D. A previously legal land use that does not comply with new zoning laws? The answer is D. A previously legal land use that does not comply with new zoning laws. Non-conforming use refers to a legally established use that existed prior to newer zoning laws, which now disallow that use. It is often grandfathered. Reference: National Zoning Regulations. Which statement about variance in zoning is correct? Is it A. Variances must adhere strictly to existing zoning regulations, B. They are a permanent change to zoning laws, C. A variance is a permit allowing deviation from zoning regulations under specific circumstances, or D. All variances must be approved by a citywide referendum? The answer is C. A variance is a permit allowing deviation from zoning regulations under specific circumstances. A variance allows a property owner to legally deviate from certain zoning requirements, typically granted by a zoning board based on specific criteria. Reference: Federal Zoning Standards. What is a restrictive covenant in real estate? Is it A. A rule imposed by local government limiting property usage to commercial purposes only, B. A legal obligation imposed in a property deed restricting the land use, C. A federal restriction on land development in environmentally sensitive areas, or D. A temporary restriction on property transactions during redevelopment phases? The answer is B. A legal obligation imposed in a property deed restricting the land use. Restrictive covenants are deed restrictions imposed by private parties, dictating certain land use limitations to maintain neighborhood characteristics or property value. Reference: National Real Estate Practice Guidelines. Which of the following is true about zoning ordinances? Is it A, they regulate how land can be used and developed? B, they are the same in every state? C, they are federal regulations? Or D, they cannot be changed once established? The answer is A, they regulate how land can be used and developed. Zoning ordinances are local laws that dictate how properties in specific areas can be used, defining residential, commercial, and industrial zones, among others. What is the main purpose of eminent domain? Is it A, to restrict land use for private gain? B, to enforce zoning regulations? C, to grant neighbors easement rights over a property? Or D, to allow government to purchase land for public use with compensation? The answer is D, to allow government to purchase land for public use with compensation. Eminent domain is the government's power to acquire private land for public use, such as highways or schools, while compensating the property owner. What is a non-conforming use in zoning terms? Is it A, a use that conforms to all current zoning regulations? B, a legally established use that doesn't comply with current zoning but was legal when established? C, a new development plan awaiting approval? Or D, a use that was never legal under any zoning ordinances? The answer is B, a legally established use that doesn't comply with current zoning but was legal when established. Non-conforming uses are existing uses of land that were lawful when established but do not meet current zoning regulations. They may continue until a change or abandonment occurs. What are deed restrictions primarily used for? Is it A, to enable unrestricted construction on a property? B, to set constraints and rules for property use and structural modifications? C, to facilitate tax assessments for properties? Or D, to regulate zoning laws at the federal level? The answer is B, to set constraints and rules for property use and structural modifications. Deed restrictions are private limitations written into a property deed, detailing allowable and non-allowable uses and building criteria to maintain neighborhood standards. How does a variance in zoning differ from a rezoning? Is it A, a variance permanently changes the zoning plan? B, rezoning is a temporary approval granted by a local authority? C, a variance provides permission to use property in a way not usually allowed by zoning ordinances? Or D, rezoning affects individual properties only and not the surrounding area? The answer is C, a variance provides permission to use property in a way not usually allowed by zoning ordinances. A zoning variance permits property owners to use their land in a way not originally allowed by current zoning laws, whereas rezoning completely changes the zoning classification of an area. Which of the following best describes a non-conforming use in zoning? Is it A, a property that meets all current zoning laws? B, a variance granted for a new development? C, use of property that was legal under former zoning but not under current zoning? Or D, an easement granted for property access? The answer is C, use of property that was legal under former zoning but not under current zoning. Non-conforming use refers to the continued use of property in a manner that was legal under previous zoning regulations, even though it does not comply with new zoning laws. What is the primary purpose of zoning laws? Is it A, to maintain property boundaries? B, to regulate land use and control urban development? C, to levy taxes on property transactions? Or D, to provide insurance for real estate developments? The answer is B, to regulate land use and control urban development. Zoning laws are designed to regulate land use, guiding the development of urban and rural areas to ensure orderly growth and development. How does a variance differ from a zoning exception? Is it A, A variance permanently changes the zoning ordinance. B. A variance is granted by public referendum. C. A variance provides relief for a specific property from zoning regulations. Or D. An exception changes the comprehensive plan of a city. The answer is C. A variance provides relief for a specific property from zoning regulations. Variances allow a property owner to use their land in ways not permitted under current zoning laws due to specific hardships or unique circumstances.
Thanks for joining us today. If you found this video helpful, subscribe to our channel for more practice exams, tips, and tricks. And don't forget to visit birdsey.ai for complimentary study sessions with Birdsey, your AI-powered study partner.